Sorry about that, everyone. I accidentally hit pause I accidentally hit done instead of pause on my gimbal. So there's going to be an edit in this video where I've stitched things together. My bad. Like I said, new to this. Earlier I'd mentioned that you don't have to have a block. You could use the paint paddle thing. How I was just talking about how that is not flat. I also had to get more water. That is another reason why you only use 2 paint paddles. You can stack as many as you want. 4, 5, 28. Hell, I don't care. But I've found that 2 is kind of the sweet spot to where it still cuts and it's easy to use. But it's still thin enough to where it'll bend and it'll conform. Obviously, you can use 1. I have done that in the past if it's stuff. What works really well is if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy one of these paint sticks. You can take and use the sticky paper, or you can buy Velcro. That's something I've done. And that way, when you're sanding, you've got the same reach and the same capacity as this one without spending the money to buy that one. So, you can still put it on there, and I'm not going to put it on there real tight because there's no paper on it, and I don't want to scratch that. But, you can put it on there and hold the ends and do the same thing. This is actually a yardstick, but it's in the paint section at Home Depot. When you get to, you can also use a ruler. A wooden or metal ruler works well. The only issue with using the ruler is if you mess up and put too much pressure on it. I thought I had a ruler over here. Anyway. You can slide it off the paper and gouge what you're working on. Wood does not really hurt anything. So that's why I choose the paint paddle route. And the paint paddle is also really good for stuff like this where it's a real thin body line. For a real small area. Because again, you can use the edge of it. Now this car has, not only do they stretch the quarters, these are brand new quarters. So I had to fix this seam up here and this here where they welded it together. And that's why there's very little dings or dents in this. This being a race car, it's going to get hurt. It's going to get scratched. This car as a race car has had a relatively rough life. No major accidents, but just scanning things, scuffing things, and what have you. In the middle of that, where it's at its lowest point, the paint stick is too long. So that's where I would use either this one, because it will bend. It just doesn't like to bend that tight. And that's when I'd use the edge. This is also one of the times, even though I tell people not to, that I have been guilty of taking a piece of paper on my hand and real lightly. Like take one of these squares of the stuff. Real light. Hardly any pressure at all on it. Just wipe and knock the side down. And it's important. If you do hand sand, there will be times where you have to, like this one. Go lengthways with your hand and not like this up and down, because even if you're careful, the weight of your fingertips pushing will leave tracks. And you might not see them while you're working, but if it's a high telling color like black, dark red, any metallic color, it'll become obvious. And that's not good. But essentially that is the long and the short of it. It's something that you will get the hang of and get a better sense of touch. I was actually electrocuted when I was younger, and I've also broke both arms twice. So I do not have a great sense of touch. Pretty much everything I do by how it looks. You know, after this is done, I will take, and even if it blocks really good, no dings, no dents, I will mix some water with some borax because it breaks the surface tension and pour it down the side of it. You can actually buy a spray that you can do it too that makes it wet, but I just do it with water and borax. It works. And I will look down it and see if there's anything. Just because I don't like doing things more than once if I don't have to. But now I'm back here. It's important when you're doing the powder guide coat, it does not matter. The second it touches the panel, you can sand it. When you're doing the paint, it's important to give it, a few minutes to really kind of kick. Because if not, it'll stop the sandpaper up really fast. And actually, this is one of those things that the cheaper the paint, the better. I just grabbed engine paint, which will work. This right here actually might be a good way for me to show you what I'm talking about. I found a spot I might have to touch up. There's flat metal plates here, and in the front to keep it from being all flappy. Because there is no floorboards in this car. It's got carbon trunk pan, carbon floorboards. It's a race car. And I had to fix that a little bit. I'll bring the camera over here in just a second. Right there and right there are low spots. That's where I puttied it, and I apparently did not sand it well enough. Now, this right here, I just need to go back over that. That'll go away. But this, I'm going to hit it with some paint, go back over it real quick and see if that goes away. It should. And if not, that's where I will apply real thin body filler, what we call putty. Just a very, very skim coat. And that will fix that. Really hope a bird don't fly in here. Hold on. It is cool, but it's in the 40s today, so I have the door open. And every once in a while, I'll have a bird get stuck in here. That takes a few days for me to get out. But like I said, make sure the panel's really wet. Paper really wet, because anytime you set it down, is a chance for it to pick up dust and dirt and scratch it. And it's important that, like, this spot's right here, don't just sand right there, because again, you'll make a dip. You'll want to kind of focus on it, but yet at the same time sand around it. And like I said, change your direction, because no matter what grit of sandpaper you have, like I said, this is 320. I've got some 3500 here somewhere. And quick science breakdown, the grit is the number of dots per square inch. Higher the number, finer, lower, coarser. Even though this is fine paper, you can dig a hole that you won't see until it's done. And you can also fill that one too. So what will happen is I will finish the side, let that sit, and then, like I said, it'd be about 45 degrees. It'll probably take over an hour to dry. Once it dries, I will put a spot of spot putty. And what I use is this U-Pole spot putty. My paint store, they wrap painter's tape around it to hold the hardener, so bear with me. This U-Pole Fantastic Glaze, it is really good for really light perfections, and by what I call light, anything shallower than an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch thick. Like rock chips, or like this, to where it's something that I drop the ball on. The front side is smooth now, but I can feel the back. So I will fix that when it dries. I will now, focus on this and around the back window and the top, which was a nightmare. I've known this gentleman for probably 18 years. In the time I've known him, this car has been 7 colors. And they didn't do a lot of stripping between them. So like I said, this was brand new 4 months ago. But this is actually the factory roof. So when I sanded all this, it looked like a gobstopper. There was blacks, blues, reds, oranges, I think even a purple. So I had to take and grind the entire top down, which was a pain in the ass, but we got through it. I'm probably going to bring the water hose over here in a minute just because that's getting annoying. But on stuff like this, if you're like most people in the car industry or in the car world, have a touch of the tism, this is really therapeutic because you're, changing the color of something instantly. And you are, it doesn't make the best sound in the world, it's, but hold on, I'm going to grab the water hose. As I said, I barely have the water hose cracked on at all. So I barely have any water pressure. But if you're using the spray bottles, you can do this if you live in an apartment and don't have a water hose or something like that. Now, full transparency, it will probably really piss off your landlord. But tell them if they're going to hate on anyone, they can hate on me. Because it's not hurting anybody. Because fun fact, the products I use, I try to use the best pollution resistant and stuff like that I can. No heavy metals, no lead, no cadmium, anything like that. But guys, I'm going to get off here and focus on getting this thing done because today is Wednesday. I'm going to really try to paint this thing Friday, which means I need to paint it. I need to finish sanding it, wash out the shop, wash down the walls. I might retape the doors and back windows. And hopefully it stays warm and this weekend I can do it. But if you have any questions, please reach out and I will try my best to make a video on it. I'm hoping on this video to not only have paint and body, but general mechanics, drag racing content, a little bit of everything that I know. So I know this sounds like every other video and I don't want it to be, but I would like to make one day $7 off these videos, because let's face it, racing's expensive. So please hit like and subscribe. You may never see me again. It may be 6 months before I make another video, but it'll help me out in the long run. So I appreciate it. And I'm going to leave you with a bit of, not sermon, but the world sucks for a lot of people right now. Regardless of what you believe or don't believe, regardless of who you voted for or who you hate. But just do your best to try to make someone smile today. Tell a joke. Wave at a kid in a car. just do something to try to make someone smile. If everybody can do that, the world will get a little better. So everyone have a great day. My name is Brian, and thank you for watching Chewy's Garage.